As flight hours, aircraft deliveries, and charter and fractional sales soared during the pandemic and the immediate aftermath, maintenance shops found their hangars filled and backlogs growing. Capacity became an issue for many reasons. Too much work all at once, a supply chain that still has not recovered from the disruptions of the pandemic, and on top of that, a workforce shortage. Adding to that has been the growth in the number of larger aircraft, and also the fact that customers need much more extensive work to be done. Well, my colleague Kerry Lynch, editor of AIN's monthly magazine, brought together thought leaders from across the industry to discuss the quandary that maintenance shops are facing in the light of this. They discuss what they're doing to mitigate these issues and how the future is shaping up for the sector. Here are some of the highlights from those discussions, and with thanks to Duncan Aviation, which sponsored this roundtable.
What is going on in the maintenance world from a big picture standpoint?
Yeah, I would say it's as busy as it's ever been. We have not, we thought maybe coming through 21, 22, we'd maybe see things start to, get a little bit better as far as backlog is concerned. But backlog right now is, it's 25, 26 time frame for major projects. You can always get in the smaller type projects, but if you have a big inspection coming up, you really need to be well out front of it, not just for the labor capacity in the hangar, but also, there's, if you're doing interior with it or anything like that, there are still some parts concerns that are out there. So the sentiment in the market and the direction the companies are going, and it's across the board. I think everybody out there right now has pretty significant backlogs, especially for the larger projects.
From a big picture standpoint, there's such strong aircraft sales, not only from a new aircraft perspective. We're very pleased with that. We have record level backlog at Embraer, but also in the secondary market. So, of course, any type of aircraft being in service drives the demand for maintenance, and more aircraft turning around in the secondary drives the need for, aftermarket inspections, lots of modifications. So we've seen huge demand, and given our backlog, we know that that's here to stay.
Well, I'm hearing mainly from our members, our association. A lot of them are saying that the beginning of this year was kind of slow, but now it's getting really busy. April, May has picked up for MROs, but some of our members are actually saying, and one of our members actually is a representative lawyer for a lot of 145, small business 145, and also small business 135. And the airports are raising their rates so high, and they really don't see the significance in what they bring to the table as far as revenue and that, and the benefits of being able to repair aircraft, the smaller aircraft in general aviation. They're being squeezed out, and they're having to shut down 145 repair stations and also 135 operations because of the airport's lack of interest, I would say, in those words.
I think it's been a theme for the last year or so. We really have a need to be extremely proactive and to be way ahead of things. Right now, it's interesting from a connectivity standpoint. There's a lot of new things entering that space. Starlink is out there making a splash, but all the other OEMs have new and neat products out there that are super competitive. So that's driving a lot of questions, from a lot of our aircraft owners and our clients. Obsolescence is a big issue right now. So we're faced with a lot of mods and different strategies to try to hit that head on and keep the aircraft flying and, up to speed and up to standards and, in a place where we've got access to good parts and, we can do so efficiently. From my perspective, while some of the things are getting better, during COVID, we were, talking about, tires, we were talking about different greases and consumables and things like that. I think a lot of that was due to some unfortunate events. There was a couple of warehouse fires and things like that that created that issue. I don't think supply chain issues are gone, because now I think we're hitting obsolescence. A lot of obsolete parts. A lot of our avionics programs are dropping certain part numbers because they've gone obsolete. So I think that's going to continue to be an issue for a while. So again, it goes back to just being proactive and understanding what you've got and staying ahead of those types of things. When avionics OEM issues, some kind of upgrade opportunity, maybe you don't need it today, but maybe that's a little clue that they're not going to support that part, 3-4 years from now. So put it in the budget, and start thinking about the best opportune time to get that done.
Is capacity still constrained?
To have a global or a G550 or whatever large cabin aircraft we're talking about sitting in a hangar for that long, to go through those big heavy checks, to go through refurbishment, they're not knocking out inspections and putting them right back into service. So capacity is still an issue. Met with a partner of ours just yesterday. We were talking about their capacity, and 9 to 12 months out is still where we are when it comes to those kind of projects.
So we've opened 2 new 47,000 square foot hangars here in the last 4 months, one in Battle Creek and then one here in Lincoln. That has helped, but the capacity is still greater than I think the hangars around North America. And we are seeing more international aircraft coming over now. I think some of that's driven by cost internationally. But even building just the hangars, that's only part of the equation. It's the people. We have to get trained individuals working on these airplanes. And you can build a 47,000 foot hangar, but hiring it and getting trained people in the facility and getting them running smoothly takes time. It's not a quick fix for any of us out there. I know most MRO OEM in the industry are experiencing the same need of qualified technicians, trying to grow their own technicians. I think we're all doing that to some extent. So, yeah, we've got a ways to go still.
Well, how are we managing it? We also have expanded, looking at an international perspective. In 2020, we doubled the size of our Brazil facility. This year, we will double our footprint in North America. And we just announced an expansion in Paris at the Le Bourget airport. So, there's a real focus on adding capacity. There's a lot of consolidation in the industry, but some of that is not actually adding capacity. So, Ryan, I agree with some of the comments you made and the strategy to build. How do we recruit great technicians? I think we've exchanged a lot of them throughout the MROs. There's been people moving all around the business. And, we've really just been focusing on the people. We know that aside from the technical skills, culture matters a lot. So we focused on making sure that we have a great workplace and that our technicians are feeling the work-life balance that we want. We've seen that settle down a little bit. During the pandemic, there was much, much more attrition, and that settled down quite a bit. One more thing that I'd like to add that Ryan actually mentioned earlier. Part of the issue with capacity is directly related to parts, because some of these maintenance events are taking much, much longer because of static in the supply chain, whatever that may be. Now, that's stabilized quite a bit, but I think the more and more that stabilizes, the more visibility we'll have on the true downtime of maintenance events. So that will help a lot.
They see a little bit of an uptick, but there's still certain items they're having issues with a backlog on it, and it's holding up. And those things are like any type of Honeywell components, anything that's their cards or anything for updates and software. Those things are kind of on a backlog to get those. And also the PPG aerospace, you're getting a hard time with backlogs on windshields and windscreens. So those are holding up some of the work that they're having. And I like what Ryan brought up, and ironically, Duncan is one of our members. So I hear from one of our members there from Duncan. Having premium space and being able to schedule people in for maintenance, their aircraft is really difficult. So you got to really think through how do I turn aircraft out of the hangar to bring new aircraft in? It's got to be a plan and well in advance because you don't have enough footprint for it. And so adding to, and I like what Ryan said, I was going to echo that. Building hangars is expensive, but to your point, we don't have the workforce to support it. You know, the pandemic was one issue as far as workforce development, but another issue was, like me, I'm a baby boomer. You know, we all retired. There was a ton of mechanics in my age group. And at that, I'll share with you real quick. I actually got my 50-year award just about a month ago from the Charlie Taylor Award from the FAA. So that's 50 years as a mechanic. So I can say right now, those people are retiring. And the new people come on board. Thank goodness we have apprenticeship programs like they have at Duncan. Like that, NATA has an apprenticeship tool that we provide to our members behind the wall that they could use as a tracking system when an apprentice has accomplished tasks through the ACS was recognized by the FAA. So it actually will record their knowledge, their safety issues, and their technical aspects of being able to get their airframe power plant certificate through testing and that. So actually, if you use that tool, you walk right into the Flight Standards District office and they can sign you off and you start testing. So kudos to those companies that are developing apprenticeship programs to help develop people to grow. So that's what I'm seeing from our membership. So thank you.
What programs do you have to attract new workers?
Yeah, so we run one in all three facilities, Battle Creek, Provo, and Lincoln. We do have dedicated trainers that work in those areas. The basic setup is that the technicians will work 4 days a week in the hangars, being obviously supervised and trained. The fifth day, they are over on the classroom side doing in-house training through the books, through the all the requirements that are necessary. And then at 18 months, they are qualified to test for the AORP. If they wish to test for both, then they wait for the 30-month period. But we've had good success. We kind of found that our best success rate in growing people is to get people from the local areas. Kind of makes sense. They're anchored by family typically, and they're used to the gorgeous scenery of Nebraska, and so that's worked real well for us. We've been doing it now for about 2.5 years. I think I know we've had over 100 folks go through the program now.
I think we're going to see a lot more interest in the industry. Something that we've tried to do and that we feel very passionate about is just making sure that young people know about careers in aviation, because many of them don't. So while Ryan's example is about local programs, it's important for us just to elevate the status of the industry so that people know that they can work with us. We have outreach programs in Brazil and Paris, in the U.S. here at Marshall University. We just graduated our first class. Pittsburgh Aeronautic Institute, West Michigan Aviation Academy, just making sure that young students and young people are even aware. And at our Melbourne facility, our U.S. headquarters, we actually just hosted a class of students to come through and see all parts of the OEM. So the maintenance, of course, is one piece. They went through production, met with HR. So it's helpful for people to see that there's a lot of careers in aviation as well.
We may have the hangar, but do you have the technicians to actually perform the work? I think everyone's doing a really great job on realizing that workforce development is something that is all of our responsibilities. A lot of the MROs are creating their own programs where they will have what they're considering apprenticeship type programs. They can come and work during the day, and they can go to a classroom setting and learn. And through that course of their curriculum, they may graduate with an airframe or a power plant certificate, which I think is fantastic. But even down to just sharing what we do with the younger generation. Just last week, we had two high school students that came here. They were brothers. One is a freshman, the other was a junior. One was interested in becoming a pilot, and the other was interested in becoming an auto mechanic. And we spent a couple hours with them and just showed them some airplanes, showed them around the hangar, let them kind of crawl around and see what it was about. And I could definitely see both those two young gentlemen wanting to join our industries.
How do you manage customer expectations for the capacity and timing?
Historically, I think, people in this industry try to group major events together just to reduce downtime overall. So this predates any type of supply chain issue. So I think the discipline around that has existed. Customers, some of them have learned the hard way that you can't just drop in for scheduled maintenance anymore or other. The best thing to do, again, aside from planning in advance, is just communicate. We just hosted our U.S. conference for our customer base. And it's important, actually, Ken alluded to this. We know what parts for which there is a shortage. So we tell our customers so that to avoid these surprises. And we make sure that there's just a lot of communication about what's going on in the whole ecosystem.
Well, I think the whole key to it is honesty. I mean, you just have to be upfront with them that, if you come in for this event, here's what we're looking at for, lead times. The sooner you can schedule, the sooner we get a deposit, the sooner we can order things, the better. I mean, it's your best shot of mitigating extended downtimes is advanced schedule and get the deposit in so we can order the parts and get them coming. If we wait until 2-3 weeks out to try and order a part, it's just not going to happen, without extending the downtimes. And we're doing some other things as well, just from a functionality standpoint. I mean, we're looking at, exchange options for certain things, whether it be, landing gear or anything like that.
For us, it's just being transparent with our vendor partners that we utilize frequently. We've got standing open discussions with them, talking about our fleet, what's coming due, and not holding our cards so close to our chest. If we've got an aircraft that's got a 96-month inspection due next year, let's start talking about that this year. Our planning team here that we have here at EJM, we're not just planning the next maintenance visit, we're really planning the next two, because we have to consider what are we not doing this visit, and we're going to push off to the next inspection. And we've got to make sure that we've got the time and the hours remaining to do that. So as we think about those next two visits, let's just go ahead and share that with our vendor partners that are actually going to be doing the work and we're going to lean on for capacity. That way they know what we've got coming down the pipeline and they can plan for it on our behalf as well.
Is there AOG capacity?
It seems like the MRO options out there have expanded in the past number of years. There's more and more AOG type maintenance trucks, mobile repair teams, fast teams, whatever the flavor is. There's a lot more of that type of maintenance available, which is great. It keeps us moving. It's nice to be able to have that option on a regional basis. A lot of companies are spreading out. They've got trucks all across the country or across the globe. So it is nice having that regional maintenance. We're not waiting on somebody to fly from across the country to come and help in an AOG situation. So that's been a nice shift. I think we've got a lot more maintenance at our fingertips as it pertains to that unscheduled maintenance. But really the scheduled piece, if we want to be, in a hangar and have a slot, that hasn't got much better in my opinion. And I think that, it takes a real proactive approach to get in front of those inspections and know what's coming down the pipeline and to stay ahead of the maintenance needs.
So concurrent with our U.S. growth, we have significantly increased capacity with our mobile response as well. And, as Ryan just said, it's when you're planning work into an MRO, there's a Rubik's Cube to a certain extent, just to make sure that you have some open capacity for drop-ins and some not. And we know that these AOG teams are needed in the field for when there is no space, or of course, a customer is broken down somewhere where they need a truck. So all of this growth is happening. One thing that I will say as well, that technologies such as, health trend monitoring and these types of things are kind of helping us try to get ahead of these things and really study the airplanes. But of course, we need to grow. We need to have the trucks as well.
Yeah, I would follow with, I think there's kind of been a shift to pre-COVID, AOG and rapid response type calls were truly driven towards AOG needs. You know, the aircraft is broken in Aspen. I need people here. We've seen more and more utilization of these AOG folks for routine type, engine inspections or minor assistance inspections, and that's put more stress on it. It's we've all grown them. I would say that for an operator though, with an AOG, he may not get his first couple calls somebody dispatched right away. So he's going to reach out probably to 2 or 3 or 4 different providers, and whoever has the first availability is more than likely who he's going to take. But I think if we can get off of trying to utilize these folks for the scheduled stuff that they know is coming, that would help with the true AOG response.
A point I'd like to add, Carrie, if I may. What's interesting about this concept that Ryan's saying, where the AOG trucks are doing scheduled maintenance, there's an economic impact there for the customers. I mean, it's more expensive, and the customers will just pay. So it's been a really interesting time as it relates to pricing, because we know that these aircraft give our customers time, and they're really willing to pay for it. We've seen that.
What are you seeing with new technologies?
For us, right now, scheduling is as we discussed, people or customers add on stuff. Maybe an airplane squawks heavy. So we're investing and working pretty significantly in AI, looking at our past history on inspections and what kind of inspection, where's the airplane from, have we seen it before, how have they squawked in the past, and really trying to paint a better picture for the actual downtimes. We're having decent success so far. The Rubik's Cube, as Marcia called it, which is what we call it as well, isn't completely perfect yet, but I think that's where we're going to be able to paint a lot more accurate picture for customers and our teams. To be honest, it's not right to bring an airplane in and we expect it to squawk 500 hours, and we end up with 1,500, and they're all in overtime, and it's tough on your people. So that's one area we're moving. We are certainly looking at some things in the paint area. I know there are folks out there that use some robotic sanders for the metallic areas with what appears to be good success. So we're looking at that technology. Sanding an airplane, although it sounds glamorous, is not. So very labor intensive and tough on the shoulders, and ergonomically a little bit difficult. So the more we can take that to take the human element out of that, the better. But that's a couple of them.
Something that we've developed, I guess, I think we launched it 2 years ago, was a troubleshooting app called Smart Troubleshooting, which essentially takes all the data that we've gleaned from our engineering database. So we have a 24/7 customer care center that fields AOG calls, and we know what we've done to troubleshoot, and we know what we've done to fix these issues. And we launched that app. It's available to MROs. Ryan, you guys may use it. I'm not sure. MROs use it. Some customers use it. Customers that have a flight department. So that helps a lot. It consolidates the FIM and allows you to move more quickly through an event. Another thing that's worthy of mentioning, and I'll speak somewhat broadly, is more sophisticated tools as it relates to materials and materials planning. And 2 things that I'll mention. One of them is using AI for inventory planning. Of course, we've talked about how hard it is to do this. And certainly there's no crystal ball, but certainly we can use all of the data that we have as the OEM to make sure that we have the right parts in the right places at the right times. Another thing that we're doing that actually just launched this year is a repair database that essentially links Embraer and our suppliers, which is a very large percentage. For repairable parts, it's a very large percentage of the inventory, and it allows us all to communicate. So, Ryan, if you need something, you want to know when a core is coming back, something like this, it allows us to speak with all of our suppliers in a digital way that was very manual before as an industry. This is not just an Embraer phenomenon, and I think really leveling up that technology is going to help everyone, because as we've discussed, parts are such a bottleneck. So the more transparency we can give to Ryan and his peers as they're working on this aircraft, the better it is, the faster it is for everyone. So again, parts investment is huge as it relates to digital projects.
Well, it's kind of ironic. I asked the mechanics, how do you see AI is going to fit in your world? And they're all kind of like puzzled. They're not sure what it's going to look like as far as future mechanics actually doing the work. But they do see advantages if they have like an SMS or a quality assurance program where they can do trends monitoring, analysis, root cause analysis for SMS. So they're starting to see the benefits, and hey, there's a lot of labor intensive in this with people that we may be able to use AI to take that workload and get the answers quickly. So getting analytical data for that SMS program and getting it promptly when it happens would be really good. But they really don't know yet if it's going to actually do riveting in the aircraft in the facility. Even though Rivomatics have been around in production forever for doing riveting in an assembly line, what is that going to look like? Composite inspections, and stuff like that. So I think the human element's still going to be needed for quite a while. But as far as analytical data, I think there's a great benefit there for AI, and that's what I'm hearing from our members too. So thank you.
What are your best practices for you, and what do you suggest for the industry?
I would say one of the mottos I have is just giving the folks the tools and whatever kind of resources they need to do their job well, and then let them do their job well. And whether we're talking about somebody on your team at work, or you're talking about a vendor partner, that's going to help you facilitate a project or complete an inspection, be there, be a resource, give them all the tools and everything that they need to do their job, and then let them do their best work, right? If we're talking about a large inspection or a refurbishment project on an airplane, obviously you trust the vendor because you picked them, you signed the proposal, and you took the airplane there. Now help them execute it, right? And manage the project, hold them accountable, but create a space where they feel implored to do a thorough job with the inspection. They're going to do fantastic work, and you have to be there as a resource, of course, to give them any kind of tools or guidance that they need, but help them through it. You're in it together, and I think with that, you're going to create an environment that is safe. They're not going to rush through an inspection, and ultimately, it's probably going to be a more effective, efficient project.
I mean, for us, I can tell you we've done additional training for not just the new technicians. It's the personnel that are buying off their work. We need them to hold the newer technicians to the highest standards. And that can be anything from, do you have your paperwork in your hand when you call over a QI or an inspector to look at it? It's kind of human nature when you do something 15 times. By the 15th one, you think you've got it in your head and you don't need to print the manual or carry the iPad over there. That we have to continuously push and educate our folks, that there is it's a zero tolerance. I mean, you have to have that paperwork every single time. No different than if the FAA is standing there talking to you or your QI. There's absolutely no way around that. We are also focusing, reduced our number of inspectors that can buy off work and created dedicated inspectors that will be 100% utilized to return either discrepancies or aircraft to service. It is a challenge. The quality culture, I think that all of us require and need to require is going to take intentional effort on all of our parts to continue to keep business aviation as safe as it is.
So building on Ryan, what you said, because it's extremely important, that quality culture and just focusing on the core business. Carrie, you've asked us a lot of questions today, some of them about AI and future, but we really have to keep in mind that our core business is maintaining these airplanes, and perhaps there are fancier and more efficient ways to do it. But when someone's in-house, we need to be repairing their aircraft in a safe way and with the highest quality standards. Some things that we've done, which are probably quite standard across OEMs, but we do very well, are visual management, so that our technicians know what's going on and they understand how we are holding them accountable and how we're judging the quality of the jobs. And that works very well because, humans want to do a good job. And as I've said before, we really focus on the employees and on the training, making sure that they understand, some of the broader context, making sure that they know who our customers are when they're working on their airplane. Customers are certainly in the center of everything that we do. So we want to bring that personal touch, including to the lady or to the gentleman who's working on the aircraft.
I'm reminded of something that I learned years ago, that you cannot inspect quality into the product. It has to be built into the product. So it has everything to do with the mechanic having the right training and also understand the expectations. So communication is a wonderful tool. And when I say that, retention of your people is important as well. Your crew leads, your managers are the critical people you need in the organization to keep it consistent and giving the incentive of the importance of safety first. And sometimes you just got to pay them a little bit more. It's an investment, because that retention, you lose a crew lead or a crew manager, you feel those effects for several years until you can get somebody else in that position to backfill them that has the same mindset in being able to keep consistent in safety first.
The culture, they have to bring it forward if they make a mistake. Marcia mentioned accountability, and you can't have a punitive response. Otherwise, folks will try and hide it from you. You need that open dialogue where they feel safe to come forward and say, I made a mistake. It happens. We all do it.
What's ahead in the future of the maintenance industry?
Well, we're definitely seeing more hangars being built. We're seeing locations expand. They're, of course, trying to get more airplanes in the barn and being able to take on more capability. Definitely, within our particular pipeline, we've got a lot of new deliveries coming, so that's exciting. But like I said earlier, we do see a lot of aircraft that are coming to us, and they want to go through a refurbishment process and be quote unquote like new as much as they can. So I definitely see a lot of those large projects continuing, which means holding that shop space on the hangar floor, at the MRO or the OEM, and I don't think that that's going to get any easier anytime soon. I think that the airplanes that are being built and delivered these days are only getting larger. All of the OEMs are competing for that bigger, faster, longer range aircraft. And with that, it's, 3 feet longer, 5 feet wider, whatever the case may be. And it's just taking up more hangar space. So it's I think capacity is going to continue to be an issue that we'll be facing for a while.
We will continue to focus on growth to support that backlog. That growth applies in investment in parts and, things to make the parts infrastructure and ecosystem more seamless. MRO expansion, including mobile response, absolutely. We're also growing simulator footprint. Well, this isn't a pilot roundtable, but the demand for pilot training, pilot instructors, parts going into simulators, that's a whole other challenge that is directly related to this discussion. And we know we just need to keep growing in all of these areas.
Yeah, good points there. I think SAF has got to be a big player. I mean, we've heard enough about it now, but there's enough concern in the world about the carbon footprint that we're going to have to continue to move the needle that way. It is a challenge. We are making strides. It's going to continue to take time. The question on the MRO OEM growth, I think that you're going to see it in certain regions. Other regions are currently being pretty heavily impacted, again, by environmentalism. And, if you look at certain, continents, Europe is probably losing aircraft at a pretty quick clip. South America, on the flip side, is adding aircraft at a very, very quick clip. So, and then Asia has finally rebounded, so that's good news. But the challenge is how do we get out of that spotlight and show that we're doing our part to make the world a better place. And I think we're moving in the right direction. The biggest challenge on growth is, again, it's going to be back to headcount. I mean, if we can gain enough young, interested parties and keep growing our technician and pilot base, the industry will continue to be strong. If we struggle in that regard, I think there's going to be owners that don't want to pay what it costs to employ a pilot or a director of maintenance. So that will hopefully is something we're all ahead of and working out. That's going to be the challenge for us.